carries. Next, we have a concept development plans for Walgreens retail store, a 14,490 square foot, 141 Carmichael Road, west of Carmichael Road and north of I-94. Mr. Darnold.
In general, the zoning on this parcel is B2 General Business District, in which retail sales is a permitted use. Also, the plan for a certificate of compliance for drive-up facility. Mr. John Kohler of Semper Development and Mr. Alan Catchpool are here tonight. Essentially, the plans meet or exceed the city standards. This site is a little bit unusual in that the site does share driveways with the office development to the south and then also with Culver Restaurant to the north. Because of the amount of pavement that's involved in those driveways, they're down to the minimum amount of pavement or impervious surface that they can have on the site. They are proposing 2 additional off-street parking places, which were not included in your plans, but they're still within the green space allowance. The 2 additional parking places don't create any concerns from access or traffic movement considerations. The engineer, again, this is concept development plans. The engineer had some concerns, not, maybe concerns is a strong word, but review in regards to additional water line and some traffic painting on the pavement to make sure the traffic flows work properly. So I'll turn it over to John Kohler at this time, just present the plans, and then if there's any questions, Mr. Alan Catchpool, the project engineer, myself, or John can answer your questions for you. John, please. Thank you. Yes, please.
Thanks, Danny. My name is John Kohler. I'm an architect with Semper Development. The project you're looking here, this is the site plan. North is up. Here's Carmichael. The Culvers is up here. The target development is down to the south, as is 94. This would be the golf course then off to the west. The primary access for vehicles will be here off of Carmichael. As Denny said, we do have some shared easements and things. This is an access easement up to the Culvers that goes on through to that access, and a shared drive here that goes on around the back. This will be our primary access. The front door of the store is right here. You can see the handicap spaces around the front door. We also have the ADA accessible route from the front door directly out to the public walk. As Denny mentioned, we did add 2 parking stalls. That brings us to 75. That was done to meet an overall development guideline set by the other retail in the area for this whole development. The Walgreens does have a drive-through. That will be located up here on the north side. So there's plenty of stacking room out of the way, away from the primary pedestrian area of the building. So that should work very well. And when you get around to the west side, that's where the service area is. There's a compactor area, and there will be an area for totes and recycling back in that area. There is no loading dock. It's simply an overhead door, so there won't be a big dock area. It's a fairly clean area. We're also planning for a pedestrian access to the Culvers to the north, so we'll be able to get these tied together with some pedestrian access. I think I'll switch to the building elevations. The elevations, all 4 sides will be brick with similar design detailing all the way around. This is the south side with some pretty substantial glass there. This would be the east side facing Carmichael, again with glass and light into the store. This is the drive-through side facing the Culvers. So here's the drive-through window, but we're also trying to carry on some of that detailing and banding on these back sides. This is the service side facing the golf course. This is the tote enclosure. That's the overhead door. That's the entire area of the deliveries. And then there is an enclosure area for the trash. That's all brick to match the building. So the same brick material all the way around, same detailing. throughout the project. That, in a nutshell, is what we're doing. I'd be happy to answer any questions, as would Al. Yes.
I have a question on these shared drives.
Yes.
Are they private? Who owns them, who maintains them, and what's the deal?
They're private, and so they're joint responsibility of the private property.
And and you have
Yep.
whatever agreements that are
And
necessary
that's,
to.
those subdivisions were done, they were access easements completed at that time, so
Yeah.
they're
If you go
transferable.
out there today, you'll actually see that there is a small asphalt road right in this area, and that is actually where the easement is.
Okay.
We'll be replacing that, expanding it so that it's more usable, a little more user-friendly, shall we say.
Good question.
Any other questions? Yeah, Mary
So will
Clark.
it be wider then, because traffic will be going between, or will there be more
Yes, it will be the width
space?
of a full two-way drive. Today, I think it's about 20 feet wide, which is actually what the easement is. We'll be widening it to, I believe it's 25 feet, so it'll be a full two-way drive.
Is there an opportunity to do sidewalk along Carmichael?
There is
There's
There's sidewalk here,
Already
and
there?
we're coming out to connect to that, and then we're sending a sidewalk up this way
Okay.
for culverts.
Is there sidewalk on the golf course side?
yes.
Are you planning some, part of the traffic will then go up by Culver's?
They
Out that
certainly,
way?
they can. This easement goes on up through culverts, so this is a continuous drive and easement for both properties.
So access is limited to the north driveway of Culver's and then the south driveway of this development. That's, so they can go either direction, or if they wanted to stop here and then go to Culver's to eat, they could go.
How do you plan on controlling the speed through there? Because people use that as shortcuts and stuff. Are you putting any rumble strips in there? Are you doing anything to keep
Well, I
that?
don't-
Or is that necessary to
I
any
don't know if I
meeting?
agree with that, then they're gonna use it as a shortcut, Fred. I haven't seen traffic really move that fast through that area.
Okay.
In my experience, and once you put cars there, and even though it may be a little bit wider pavement area, if cars are there, you have more of a visual impact. I don't foresee those cars moving through there any faster than a normal parking lot now. Are there a few people that drive fast, and they should, absolutely. But, I mean, if most people will
Yeah, I think
adhere to reasonable speed, I'd say.
the other point of it is, this access actually comes in quite a ways, and then you come forward, you'll come down, and then you bend out. So it's not quite the straight. If you go in there today, the people kind of cut across where the pavement is.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. One I know is not, has to do with the private drives and the easements. I know it's not gonna be the responsibility of the developer here, but right now, the way all the drives merge there, as you come in from like, Carmichael, or Caribou Coffee from that area and Target, and you come down from Brugger Bagels, Traffic controls.
What we're suggesting is, in Janice's comments and also their city staff comments, is that they would have a stop bar here and a stop sign. We're gonna be talking as this development, get a stop bar and a stop sign here. So you have three, you don't want to stop it coming in, you want that traffic to
Right.
flow.
right?
This will be a three-way stop.
Okay, and then my other question is, do you have a projection as to how much traffic is gonna increase in the area because of this development? I mean,
Well, I mean, I have some general traffic. The beauty of a facility like a Walgreens is, it's more of a trickle of traffic all day as opposed to, say, a fast food or a bank. So, if you think about the typical pharmacy, you're gonna have, maybe 20 cars in that parking lot, and every minute or so, there's one coming in and one going out. And that's pretty much what you get all day long, as opposed to some of the other uses where it's more of a surge in traffic.
sure.
So from a traffic standpoint, a pharmacy is a pretty good user.
But with that in mind, as you mentioned, you say you have 75 spots. And I don't know if you just pulled this number out of the sky. You say typically 20-25 cars are there. Why do we need that many, Denny? I mean, do we need green space? Do we want green space? I mean,
Well, they are meeting the standards. I mean, so it's hard for us to say, no, you gotta go back. As long as you're meeting the standards, go back. Now, I've always stated, I said, if a business is successful, you gotta provide adequate off-street parking. Now, businesses aren't successful are the ones that don't have, or have more than what's necessary. I think, because they're going over our standards, I think Walgreens saying, based on their experience, this is what they feel that they need to have, and, I'd go with that. Let's say if we're going back and approving a Target or a Mills Fleet Farm or a Walmart, I would probably argue that perhaps we ought to look at proof of parking and providing more additional green space versus all that parking sitting empty. This type of development, I think they're probably okay with developing in the way it is.
Okay. Any other questions? Kevin? Anything? Okay.
Maybe just as a follow-up to that, is this a typical size of a site? or
Yes,
is it-
yeah,
is
pretty
it-
much the typical size of the building.
And again, tonight, if you so desire, we're approving preliminary concept. It'll come back for final
Yeah,
approval.
and I just, one question for Alan, is project getting Dennis Posler's comments or any specific concerns at all on what was forwarded to you?
No, everything is straightforward. Yeah, we've reviewed that. I'll talk to him, and I think we're pretty good.
Okay. So I'm recommending approval of the concept development plans contingent on the final plans being modified per the recommendations of Dennis Posler in his memo of 5/9/11.
I will so move with Denny's recommendations.
I'll second that.
Is there any other discussion that you'd like to have? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Danny, do you want me to leave these here? Do you want me to take these? What would you
Well,
prefer?
if you'd like to leave them, yeah, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Number 4, we have accessory dwellings to be allowed above detached garages in 1- and 2-family residential districts. Amendment to zoning code 255-28, accessory buildings and structures. Mr. Darnold.
Yeah, at the last Plan Commission meeting on April 7th, we talked about this concept without making commitment to go move ahead to adopt it or make recommendation to the Common Council. I have placed it basically in additions or modifications of the zoning code I feel would be necessary to provide for this opportunity. Again, what we're suggesting is allowing accessory dwellings only above detached garages. The reason I'm suggesting limiting it to that is that we're not opening the door to really starting to create 2-family residences in single-family districts. There are some other considerations. Again, a definition of accessory dwelling, a dwelling located above as part of a detached accessory 1- or 2-family residential garage. That would be added on into the definition section of accessory buildings. And then add on the development standards, and which was basically reviewed last time. 1, a dwelling unit can be no greater than 1,000 square feet in area. Basically, a 3-car garage is now, give or take, is right around 820. Our maximum size of garage in Hudson is 1,000 square feet. You can go larger than that with a conditional use permit, but I'm not suggesting we start allowing these this is supposed to be a ancillary dwelling. It's supposed to be, for a son or a daughter that may be living at home, or like a mother-in-law or your dad. It's living sort of part of the family, and the owner either has to live in the house or in the dwelling, the accessory dwelling. So it's not just opening it up for general rental.
That's my major concern. I mean, how do you tie this to, say, hey, your mother needs help, needs living, and so you're gonna do this to have her close to you, rather than somebody buying a property and say, hey, I can divert some of the cost of this by renting out this above my garage, and then all of a sudden you got 6 kids living up above the guy's garage behind his house. How do you address that part of it? That's my major concern.
Some of that may happen, but a 1,000 square foot dwelling is not very large.
Can they rent it? I mean.
Yeah, oh yeah, most certainly.
Because I think we already have that issue. We've had that issue in a couple other locations in town, and I feel it can detract from the value unless it's a family or somebody if I needed to put my mother above my garage, I would expect my neighbors would say, okay. But if I wanted to rent out my garage to anybody, all of a sudden you're changing, I think, the whole purpose of this thing, and that very much concerns me. I don't like it if it could go to that. I guess that's my personal feeling.
Anybody else? Did we have a request, Mr.?
Well, there was, I mean, we've had requests for this for on and off for 15, 20 years. I mean, about every 5 years, it's one of these topics that comes back for review. Frank, I'm sorry.
What are the, I mean, right now, it's not allowed, period?
That's correct.
Can you,
Is plumbing required?
Yes, it'd have, we're putting here, one of the conditions would be is it has to meet the 1 and 2 family dwelling code, which makes it a habit. You know, in some cases, somebody could add plumbing to a garage, but because that garage isn't gonna be inhabited, you know, it's for a different function. It's for, you know, washing a car, or, you know, cleaning up, you know, maybe you've got a workshop out in the garage. Here, it's for the purpose of inhabiting that space, so it'll have to meet the 1 and 2 family code, which basically I feel is gonna eliminate a lot of considerations for these, because it's gonna become more expensive to modify. I don't think you'll see a lot of existing garages modified. Most likely, we've got a 9,000 square foot lot, you got enough green space to build, maybe take down an old garage, build a new garage with a unit above it, so all that new constructions can be brought up to code. I just think it's maybe, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, it'd be prohibitively expensive to modify an existing garage to the 1 and 2 family code considerations.
And it has to be above the garage, you couldn't take the existing
Yeah,
garage and do it.
we're not wanting to spread out. That's another reason of going to the 9,000 square foot lot area, is that you would have enough area in a lot that something could be. I mean, if you're trying to put something like this in an older lot, you know, in some of the areas north of City Hall, I mean, you may have 6,000 square foot lots. To try to do this on that, you've got a physical limitation in that lot, and all of a sudden you're using up a lot of the lot.
what happens to, this is a dumb question because I just don't know. What happens to zoning, say Fred Yorg wants to put an apartment above his garage? And so, okay, I get the conditional use permit used to do that. So all of a sudden, now we've got 2 dwellings on this property. Now, does that become multifamily? Does that become, what happens there? And then, I mean...
No, I mean, this is permitted as an accessory unit to, and again, one of the conditions I put in there is that that unit can't, the garage cannot be separated from the house and sold as 2 different.
Okay.
It has to stay at the house.
But it still can be rented?
It could be rented, yes.
And doesn't have to be a family member.
No.
Okay.
As long as the owner lives in either the unit or the house.
Is there a height limit?
Well, there's for garages there, right now it's,
25?
oh, it's 21. You can go over 21 with a conditional use permit. So in this case, we're going for a conditional use permit for the accessory dwelling. They most likely will come also to include the height.
Okay.
The reason we went to the height was in the older areas of town, they can match some of the steeper pitch
Right.
considerations with the same pitch on the garage to try to provide a consistent architectural style between the two. What we were getting with the lower, at one time, the highest you could have a garage was 16 feet. Well, you know, if you've got to try to provide that garage to look a little more aesthetically pleasing and compatible with the house, you know, you can come in and ask for that pitch, roof to be modified to provide some compatibility.
One last dumb question. Do we dare add language in any type of addressing this issue, tying it to, say, family members or relatives?
I haven't reviewed
we
that
can
with
do
the city
that.
attorney, but if you want that reviewed with the city attorney, I'd be pleased to do so.
I don't know if I agree with doing that, because, I mean, if someone owns the home and they get, I mean, from what I'm hearing is, we're adjusting this, we're revisiting this because, you know, we've had requests, obviously. However, you know, this is their property, it's their home. If we give them the conditional use, if we grant them their conditional use to change over their garage, we can't really say, but you can't rent to A, B, and C. You know, it's their private property.
And I know, for instance, the city of Minnetonka allows this, and I know people that rent to somebody, and when they go south for the winter, that person kind of keeps an eye on their house. So, you know, it kind of serves a couple different purposes. You know, if you have your mother or father that's getting old and there's someplace near that they can live, or if you start, you know, being gone for 5 or 6 months of the year, somebody can watch your place for you. So, I mean, there's a benefit to allow this.
I had to ask the question.
Yeah.
Are there gonna be issues or potential issues on what can be stored on that first floor? Like gasoline or mowers and stuff?
Well, that's a good question, Frank. I mean, basically, it's above a garage. I mean, you can store gasoline in a garage in a single-family home as long as it's not over a certain volume, so
I didn't know whether there was gonna be any potential liability associated with that, or like whether or not there's any kind of air exchange or anything with vehicles underneath.
Well, I can check that. I can ask that question on David Gray, our building inspector, and our fire marshal.
I know from an insurance standpoint, they don't like a fireplace in a garage where there's cars and gasoline stored.
I know, that's why I don't have wood burner in my garage anymore.
That's why I have a push mower, so.
Yep.
Sounds like to me we need some more
What do you want?
clarity or
I'd be
clarification.
pleased to go back and bring it back in next plan commission meeting and address some of these questions you have.
So what are the questions we have?
Fuel and relation.
Well, you know, those of us that have attached garages, that we store our gas cans in the garage.
Right.
Don't even think of it. Don't even think of it.
I just don't know whether there would be any additional barriers required for the second floor when you're
Right.
above,
Right.
because that may have to be a rated
Have
ceiling.
you ever, well,
Right, yeah,
those
yeah.
of you
That'd be a
that tuck
building.
under garages,
I'm thinking about my own house.
Oh, yeah.
where you have a tuck under garage.
I almost want to go build a shed now.
No, but I mean, right above
Oh, it's
we have
also
bedrooms
stuff.
above our garage. Second-story homes, and I don't know if there's any particular building codes that come into play because
Well, I
we
mean,
have
that-
gasoline underneath.
That's why.
I think that'd be more of a building code issue than a zoning issue, though.
I think so too.
I think I know the answer to this, but if someone does want to do this to their garage, they have to come for a conditional use, right?
Public hearing.
Someone just can't go renovate their garage right now, right?
No, the neighborhood would be notified of the public hearing, they'd be invited to attend.
That's
They have
fine.
an opportunity to comment on what the potential impacts of the neighborhood may be. And then our recommendation, either for approve it or approval with conditions, would go to the common council, and the common council would make the final decision. But yes, it does require a public hearing process.
I'm in favor of taking action on
Is
it.
that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to,
Okay.
what are we doing? We're recommending
Amending
this to the
zoning
city
code
council? 255-28 to allow accessory buildings and structures?
Did you want to answer any of the questions first, or is it not necessary?
And that's up to you.
I think the gas thing is a building code issue.
I'm pleased to take it back and bring it, and discuss and bring it back, but that's
Okay.
up to you.
We have a motion. Is there a second? If there's no second, then okay, then there's no second.
I think it's just a matter of clarifying just those couple things. I don't think this is gonna be a deal breaker at all. I think it's just clarifying a couple questions. I mean, I know that we had one group that was requesting, have you gotten other requests, or they followed up to say where
No, I
are we
mean,
at with the
this
process?
one couple would've came tonight, but they had some family
Sure, but I mean,
considerations going on, but yeah, they're the only one that's really at this time, but we have had over,
right,
about once a year, once or twice a year, we get requests for the city of,
So if I could get clarification, what questions do we want answered?
Let me
Gas,
ask a
the gas
question,
issue?
But those, once again, those may not be planning and zoning questions. Those may be more
No,
the
but-
building code side.
No, but what I can tell you is, no, it is definitely a building code issue that can be addressed through the 1 or 2 family code. That's the answer I try to come back with, Frank, so.
And is there any other issues that
I
we
mean,
have?
the relationship.
Well, the relationship
Restricted
issue
to,
I brought up, can you tie it to a family member or, and of course, there was rebuttal to that, but, and that, no, that's why you were asked the question, but,
Yep.
you know, because then I just feel you're changing the classification of the property. If it's not tied to a family member, it becomes a rental property. I guess that's the reason I brought that up, and.
Well,
I
but,
think that
In
gets,
theory, any
No.
house in Hudson could be a rental property.
and it's 1 and 2 family homes, right? I mean,
Correct, yeah.
we're not talking about changing it to multifamily.
I
It's 1 and
understand.
2 family homes.
Okay,
think
so
that just
that
gets-
doesn't affect the zoning. Or that doesn't put it into multifamily.
Correct.
No, the zoning underlies either be 1 family or 2 family zoning. Yeah, it doesn't affect the underlying zoning.
Let me ask a question, Denny. Could we limit how many people could live there? Or you can limit the
that,
square foot, but can we limit that?
There's been a lot of court case, and that's the reason you have definitions of family. Basically, the courts have upheld that family definitions can be up to 5 unrelated people can be considered a family group. Cities have tried to be more restrictive than that. Those regulations have been generally shut down in court.
that's why I think you have to kind of stay clear of kind of saying it has to be family too. I mean, I think that just gets us in an area that's not our area to regulate or, but I hear what you're saying.
Well, I'm just trying to ask the question.
No, those are great questions. And that's why we have to ask them. That's why you have the discussion.
You could take a neighborhood that, Danny's right, though. I mean, part of this, the correction or the thing that will keep people away from doing this is the cost will be excessive. And it'll have to be pretty much done on new construction, otherwise you'd have to totally reconstruct your building. And you better have a darn good purpose for it, otherwise who would spend that kind of money? And I guess with those underlying issues, I think most of everything's pretty safe, but I just feel that somebody's bending and twisting the rules or modifying it or changing it, and I guess I just wanna make sure that we're acting, you know,
For sure.
in proper fashion, noting that that could happen.
Right? Agreed.
I like we're limiting it to 1,000 square feet, and the lot's gotta be 9,000, so that does kind of limit where it can go to, so.
Right.
It's not gonna just kind of get jammed in a neighborhood that it would be inappropriate for.
1,000 square feet might limit the number of people who are be residing in it, so,
Yeah.
might.
I totally disagree with that
I'm using
statement.
the word might. I used the word.
Well, and I don't mean this in bad reference, but you look at how other people live in other parts of the world, and you can get 15 people in a space like that, based on, if you were comparing it to Japanese lifestyles and some other things, so I mean, boy, oh boy, be careful. when you
Yeah,
bring
but,
that up.
we totally, which could be off subject, but to respond to that, we do have a standard of people have to be in beds and certain age limits of how you can share a bed and stuff, and so I do think it does,
Okay,
it can limit, I don't think we're gonna squish 15 people in there.
So what are our questions?
Fuel,
I think we're
building
way
code.
A building code question,
rent.
Okay.
I talk about number of persons really. I can talk to the city attorney about any of those issues. I mean, that's just, you're giving me some guidance as far as what.
well then I would like to move to postpone until we can get, I don't know, I don't think there's a comfort level here. We need some clarification on some things to proceed on this with good intent.
Is there a second to postpone?
I'll say.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. 4-1.
You vote.
Do I vote? I'll vote no. 4-2. Okay. Any other business for informational purposes for the upcoming agenda?
The next plan commission meeting would normally be scheduled on June 6th. I'm gonna be out of town that week. I can move the meeting back to 1 week. The reason I'm asking, the city does have an application in for conditional use permit. I'd like to be able to go ahead and schedule that, because I gotta get a public hearing notice in. Also, the other issue I'd like to get up and present before the Plan Commission is the St. Croix Riverway regulations. Last time we discussed that, it was tabled. I didn't bring it back tonight because Paul Rademacher made the motion on the tabling that issue. There's some potential considerations I need to inform Plan Commission. Basically, if we don't adopt it, the DNR can adopt a regulation, and we don't have as much administrative authority over those regulations than if we adopt our own. So I think it's in the best interest of the city to adopt our own regulations. So that's the reason I like to bring it back and have that re-reviewed again. I'll talk to Paul, because tabling, that's the reason I don't like tabling issues.
Are there
Because-
changes, Danny? Are there new things, or is it
No,
just
no
a review
different,
process?
but state statute says if the cities don't adopt their own regulations, the state can adopt regulations in behalf of the city, and then they have the right to veto or block city decisions on those, and why we want to even get in that situation.
Is this related to a specific issue?
No, it's
In general?
general ordinance.
Okay.
So are you proposing May 26th? Is that
May 16th,
May 16th?
and we may.
How does everybody look on that?
June
June
16th.
June, I'm sorry, June 16th.
I thought you wanted to go before June 6th.
I thought so too.
So
Well,
June,
and I didn't know that you
I
had
can't
one.
I can't have the public hearing that soon.
okay, June 16th?
That's fine.
So,
scheduled?
well, that'll give us time then to resolve any issues
Oh,
on
absolutely. Yeah. No, I'll have plenty of time to,
I will be out of town that day, just. so
I'm
you know.
not available either. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Are we doing a meeting on May 26th?
No.
no.
So the May 26th meeting is now canceled. Is that correct?
Wait.
We had one, we scheduled
Wait a
that a
minute.
No,
while
I
back.
want to have, no, let me regress that.
You got-
Sorry.
Well, you know, we could have the meeting to talk about the accessory dwellings on May 26th. I cannot, the reason I'm asking for a meeting on June 16th, because I need to set a public hearing. I cannot set it as soon as May 26th, that's too early.
Right,
We
right.
need the public
Okay,
hearing
not enough
notification,
notice.
so. So yes, I'm sorry, there is a meeting scheduled for May 26th, my fault.
That's fine.
But I'd like to have that first meeting in June on the 16th.
Okay, so we have a meeting on the 26th and June 16th,
There is one on the 26th.
correct?
Correct.
And 2 people will not be here on the 16th.
Okay.
Will we have a second meeting in June then,
Yes,
on the 23rd or the 30th?
probably the 30th, we'd probably separate it by,
I will not be here on the 30th either.
Who's
Might
not gonna
not
be
be
here on
there.
the 26th?
It's the 4th.
I'll be here.
On,
I'll be
on May
here.
26th?
Yep.
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
It was the,
It
16th.
was the
16th,
16th,
both
I
of you
can't,
can't make
yep, I can't make the 16th.
Can I
Go ahead.
just ask one other question? Is that whole, where's the off-street parking issue at? Is that,
We have a public hearing, Monday
Monday night.
night.
Basically, the city attorney agreed with me is that waivers cannot be issued if you got the payment in lieu of parking
okay.
in place.
So is that done with this group then? So now that's all at the city council level?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I would say yes,
Okay.
unless something comes up Monday night that,
All
you
right.
know, gets sent back here, but the answer should be yes.
So the decision will be made on Monday then? On the fee?
Not necessarily, because it's an ordinance. They could have first reading and wait till the next meeting to adopt it, so the answer is not definitely yes.
Okay.
They could wait till the second meeting, or the first meeting in June to adopt it.
So trying to get our schedule back together, do we really want to meet for one item on the 26th on the,
No.
Well,
Well, it's-
only
unless
let
there-
me put it this way.
There could be something else.
I'll use my discretion if that's the only issue. Maybe look at a morning meeting or some other alternative. If we have additional, then we try to meet on the
Okay.
26th.
But isn't Walgreens gonna come back here
If their
quickly, don't
plans
you
are,
think?
if their plans are ready to
Yeah.
submit. They have to submit 10 days prior to the meeting, so they got to turn around next Monday to submit, so.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other things for upcoming agenda?
I think that's it.
Okay, anybody else?
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.